The decor of the halls greeted me as I walked through the corridors, wanting to simply lie down and rest my sore limbs. A muffled giggle, however, caught my attention as I walked past a door that was left open. Out of curiosity, I leaned into the door to find the source of the sound. We're gonna get another cute couple interaction. Yay! The power couple, Eric and Irene. I'm glad. Irene has not had too much to do so far. Like, she only comes in to, like, comment on your outfit, pretty much, and then she's gone. So, I'm glad to see, like, a little bit more with her. Also, am I just now noticing that she has potential horns? Are those hair clips or horns? Inside were Eric and Irene, a pair that emanated charm and sophistication. They were settled at a balcony carved out of the room they were lounging in. From the look of it, it was just an open pocket room, Spartan and probably used for private affairs. Eric and Irene stood by the railing of the balcony, staring out into the sky and smiling at the clean air.
I won't lie. I've missed this world a bit.
Oh, so you're from here! How did it take me so long to realize she had horns? That's how little she's been in the game. Good grief. Killing it, girl.
That makes only one of us, my love.
Oh, come now. You cannot tell me that you don't miss being here.
Irene turned and leaned back against the railing, giving Eric a smug smile. Irene had always been a mystery to me. I was convinced that she was a succubus, but she wouldn't reveal to me what she really was, which added more mystery to her flair. She was definitely pro-demon, always dropping out of glamour whenever she was alone or with any of our group, but she respected humans enough to work her way to the top of the financial hierarchy the old-fashioned way. When Eric told me about her, I could practically feel the love and devotion he had for her with each word he described her with. While I was still his princess, she was his queen and love. That's interesting. So he reserved princess for angel. My heart hurts. Again, all these interactions are just making my heart hurt. Eric chuckled at Irene and shook his head, still facing the sky.
This world is too full of boring or terrible memories. I would rather be back in the human world. Nothing to bother us as we enjoy the world together.
Irene let out a small laugh before sliding closer to Eric, laying her head on his shoulder and staring at the ground.
Eric, there is one thing that bothers me.
Oh?
Oh? What is it, my love?
Irene pressed her lips together. I could see a moment of hesitation and doubt form in her eyes before she let her feelings out into the air.
Why are you so close to that girl? Your princess. I understand your closeness to your family, but she is your brother's intended.
Damn. Eric's called out. Ooh. Just girl trouble in the family. Well, I'm interested to hear what my darling Eric has to say. My heart lurched at the mention. Eric looked at her and took a moment before kissing her head sweetly, wrapping an arm across her stomach and hugging her to him.
Didn't I tell you before? She saved my life, my brother's lives. I owe her more than any human in the human world.
I understand that, but something about the way you speak about her makes it seem like you love her as much as your brother does.
No. My heart. I stared at Irene and Eric in shock. He spoke about me? In that way? Why? I was marrying his brother, and he was married to her. That made no sense. At Eric's laugh, I broke from my thoughts, as did Irene, gasping as he pulled her closer, leaning his forehead to hers.
Is my queen becoming jealous of a human girl?
You're avoiding the question.
What of it?
I find it rather adorable and endearing, despite your concern being completely unjustified. Are you truly concerned about me being close to her?
And if I said yes?
A moment of deep silence passed between them as Eric buried his gaze into Irene's eyes as she did the same to him. Despite the light tension in the air, I knew that Eric didn't see me the way he saw her. He devoted himself to her long before the moment he said, "I do," at their wedding, and despite Eric having some charismatic tendencies, He was never one to betray the trust of someone he cared about. Eric leaned in and captured Irene's lips, making her release a sweetly pleasured sigh against him and lovingly grasp his shoulders. As he slowly pulled away, he gave her a genuine smile.
There is no one I love and care for more in this universe than you, my beautiful Maze Mare. You completely have my heart, my mind, my body, and my soul. And there is no one who can take that away from you.
Irene stared into Eric's eyes, reading him and becoming lost within them at once. Despite her being the one who controlled the relationship, there were often times where she became the one who followed the one she loved. Irene straightened up in Eric's arms, wrapping her arms around his head and nuzzled her nose against his.
My wonderful, beautiful, radiant Maze Mare. I will be yours now, and in purgatory when we finally rest. If you ever leave my side, I would spend an eternity looking for you.
Aww.
If you ever went missing, I would scour the entire human world and demon world for you. I am yours as you are mine, Uzaris.
The pair smiled lovingly and simply relaxed in each other's embrace. It was rather sweet to see them together. Even as they shared vows in the human world, I could tell their love truly went beyond just their wedding rings. Eric smirked a bit before leaning his head beside her face, whispering a very quiet note into her ear. A rough pink blush ran across her cheeks, causing her to smack his shoulder.
You absolute tease. I swear you say these things just to make me blush. I won't fall for it.
I don't tease. I make promises.
And that's why you're my favorite. Another smack on the shoulder made Eric lighten his embrace a bit as he laughed, while Irene pressed her lips together in a fake attempt to be angry at him. If I knew anything about Irene, it was that she truly loved Eric from the bottom of her heart. I decided to leave them be and continued heading towards my room, where I'll probably run into more people. But this was interesting. Like, I'd say Eric is still in love with Angel, but it's different. It's a different love from what he feels for Irene now. Like, he's accepted that Angel is interested in his brother in this universe. And he found another woman that he could devote himself to, that he loves in a completely different way. That was kind of an interesting look into Eric's psyche. Okay. I get a break. I get a break from all the, I love all these boys feels. Okay. Finally, I slowly made my way into the room and sat back onto the bed, letting the rush of exhaustion run through me like a wave of water. I shut my eyes and fell back onto the mattress with a soft thud. We were a handful of days away, and I wasn't sure how we were going to handle it, now that we were apparently being tested on top of it.
You have nothing to fear from me, child.
Oh, really? Well, why don't you give me your name, then? I didn't even have the strength or care to sit back up. I continued to stare at the ceiling, greeting the voice in my head with a grimace. Why are you doing this? Why not just test him yourself?
One cannot be tested if they are not ready for the consequences.
Hello again. That got me to sit up. I looked at the fireplace, remembering the dream I had of Sam being burnt alive. A shudder ran through my spine as the voice chuckled.
You know what will happen if he is not worthy of my power.
But couldn't you just leave him alone and go give your power to someone who is worthy, and maybe not burn him alive in a giant fiery death? But why must he take it?
He wishes to kill the Abomination Demon Lord, correct?
My anger flared. How was this being so high and mighty of himself? Diana and Sarah seemed to respect him for his power, but if he was so powerful, then why wasn't he here himself testing Sam? The voice answered my thought.
I am bound to the dark, as I have always been for eons.
Eons?
Yes, child. My kind and I have lived within the depths of the Abyssal Plains ever since the dawn of time, feeding off of the ashes of the dead and granting the world above us Peace.
Peace? Was the being some kind of underground creature? How was it able to communicate through fire, then?
We are all-powerful, child. Should we desire it, we could bring the world to its knees and drown it in endless flame.
From the power behind his voice, I could tell that he was telling the truth. A violent shiver ran up my spine as I imagined the castle and the land around us completely covered in flames. The voice, however, continued.
Fear not, however. We care little for the world above.
Then why get involved now with the Demon Lord?
The Demon Lord is a mad abomination undeserving of the power of the demon world. For what is to come, he must be eliminated.
What do you mean, what's to come?
Talking to the voice?
Oh. Why are you in... Are you in demon form? Yes. Well, hello, horny. I, didn't mean that the way it came out. Sorry, hi, Homerus. Moving swiftly on. I quickly looked to the door to see Sam staring at me intensely. What surprised me was that he was in demon form. I could only assume his glamour spell vanished from how much energy he had used in training. I nodded and looked to the fire. The voice was telling me about itself. It apparently lives beneath the demon world. I hope that Sam knew what it was. Whatever this thing was, it seemed to think of itself as the most powerful being in the world, which I couldn't verify if it was unknown to me. Sam, however, cocked an eyebrow.
So it's a dragon.
Oh, interesting. Smog, the destroyer of worlds? Wait. What? I shot my head at Sam, both confused and thrown off at the answer. A dragon? A dragon? When did that become part of the list of demons in the world? How were dragons even remotely related to demons? Sam stared at my face and laughed before walking over and ruffling my hair.
What? You didn't think they were real?
No! I mean, anything's possible at this rate, but a dragon? How is that possible? The voice in my head laughed at my surprise, but what shocked me was that Sam reacted as well to the laughter, looking around the room in shock. Oh, finally you can hear it.
The fuck?
I am surprised that you know of what I am. Oh, Maurice.
Oh, so that explains the fiery wings I saw in the one vision. Where I died. It's because he's got the power of the dragon unlocked after that.
Call me Sam.
You choose to acknowledge your human name.
Yeah, I do. Got a problem with that?
You become more interesting to me every day that passes, Sam.
Thanks. Now why the fuck are you testing me?
Do you wish to kill the Demon Lord?
I watched a flash of rage rush across Sam's eyes as he nodded, pinning his gaze to the fire before us and seeing the same eyes I had seen before appear within the flames.
Yeah, I do.
Then I will grant you my power, if you are worthy to take it.
What? If I'm worthy? What's that supposed to mean?
The voice ignored Sam and focused its attention on me.
Child, you should prepare for tomorrow. You will be tested as well.
For what? Why do I have to be tested? What for? Me? I stared into the fire, now slightly afraid of what test this thing had in store for me. Would it have Diana disguise herself as Sam? Or Sarah? Could Diana even do that? I didn't want to assume that it would use the same trick twice. The possibilities were endless. I shook my head and took a breath. I had to be strong and show it that I wasn't afraid. All right. I'll be ready.
Such confidence for a human.
With that, the eyes vanished from the flames, and Sam looked to me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders.
You alright?
Yeah, I mean, I'm unhurt. I'm just a little nervous. I was nervous. There was no way I could have been alright. Yet, deep in my gut, I knew that everything was going to be okay. I had to be confident in my skills that I was ready for whatever this thing threw my way. I nodded to Sam, seeing him smile a bit. I gave him a little smug smile and flexed my arm. I'll be okay. Let me at it. Sam laughed, now relaxed, and gently nudged me.
Good. Now kick the test's ass, whatever it is.
I nodded softly. I had to breathe. Everything would be okay. Because every time I say that, it always ends up okay. Not always. Bleh. As I took a deep breath, I took a moment to take in that Sam was still in demon form. I touched his horns, which I found hilarious as they protruded from the sides of his head like handlebars. I'm never going to get used to you in this form.
Huh? Oh, shit! I forgot to turn back. Sorry!
I stared at Sam as he stepped back and looked down at his form in surprise. As he rode the back of his head, I could see the comfort he had in what was his true form. While it wasn't totally different from his human form, he still had horns and the incubus taint on his skin. Sam shook his head and began to charge his energy.
I'll change back.
That's fine. You're here. I was kind of surprised when the other boys, well, I guess just James and Eric so far, never were in their demon forms unless we were going to storm the castle. So, hey, that's fine. Sam was comfortable in that form. If he was exhausted, then he didn't have to use more energy to glamour himself. I held out my hand and walked over, placing it on his chest and stopping him.
Huh?
Don't worry about it. You don't have to. Sam stared for the longest time before smiling and nodding. I was happy to know that he was considerate enough to consider my feelings, but if he was happy in his true form, then I didn't mind sleeping beside it. As I looked at him, though, a dangerous curiosity crept over me. Uh-oh. Yeah, I knew this is where she was going. I called it with my horny comment earlier. I'm never gonna live that one down. I had never really thought of making love to him in this form. In his human form? Absolutely. But not with him as the demon he truly was. Would it be different than what I expected? Would it be exactly as I imagined it? I bit my lower lip, letting the curiosity fester in my mind a bit.
Huh? What's with the look?
You don't want to know, man. I didn't notice the expression my face was making as I stared at Sam's body, causing me to jerk my gaze up into Sam's eyes and shake my head. Uh-huh. Nothing.
Nothing, huh?
Sam slowly began to stalk towards me, forcing me to step back and eventually lean against the wall with him placing his arms on either sides of my head. I was trapped and could only stare up at my captor.
I think you're staring at me and thinking bad things.
I'm pure. Pure as the driven slush. I felt my heart rush into my throat and silence me as I gazed into Sam's emerald eyes, which oh so slightly dilated in a small form of lust. Now I'd done it. Sam chuckled and leaned in close, touching his nose to mine.
So, you gonna tell me the truth?
Set him straight. Take initiative. Sam thought he had the upper hand. However, I knew how to make him go crazy. Please don't be another 10-minute love-making scene, please. Have pity on my poor heart. And sweat glands. I leaned forward and locked lips with him, making him gasp against my mouth. I slyly wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him close, letting him know that he was right and that he had better make good on my thoughts. Sam pushed forward, groaning softly and pinning me to the wall with his body. I felt my hands roam his skin. It was so strange. There was no difference in texture of Sam's green marks from his skin, almost as if the marks were part of his physical nude appearance. Still, I could feel the power Sam carried just from touch and passion alone. Sam was definitely strong, and he only reaffirmed my mental assessment as he gripped onto my hips and lifted me up higher on the wall and made me wrap my legs around him. Unconsciously, I gripped onto his horns, causing him to growl almost animalistically against my lips and make me gasp at the sound. I stared wide-eyed at Sam, seeing his eyes glow slightly. Did I hurt you?
No.
Oh. I became lost in his eyes as he began to deeply enthrall me, the small ring of green around his lustful blown pupils glowing gold as the spell took hold. I released a heavy moan before gripping his horns hard and pulling him back to me for a kiss. His kisses became eager and wild, like grabbing hold of his horns was a turn-on for him. Was it? Sam zipped us back to the bed with his inhuman speed and settled himself with me in his lap, and him sitting back against the bedpost. His hands began to wander along my body, trying to control themselves from simply tearing through the fabric dividing us. In my own desire and need, I quickly forced myself away from Sam's lips and touched my nose to his, staring deep into his eyes as I began to undo every bit of clothing and strip them off of me before tossing them who knew where. Thankfully, he was already bare for me, so that was one less outfit in our way. As I finally became fully bare above him, Sam wrapped his hands around my waist and adjusted himself to kneel on his knees, me straddled over him. We didn't even need to play to know that this was going to be a rough ride. Oh, no. Well, that's a lot of green. Wow. Settled my hands back on Sam's horns, my lustful eyes burning into his as he guided me and smirked a toothy grin at me.
You better hang on.
Oh, no. As my entire body became rushed with ecstasy, I couldn't stop the loud and wild moan from escaping my body, or from my eyes rolling back in wild euphoria. My world rocked with waves and pulses of pleasure and desire. The room around us, the smell of sweat in the air, it all became irrelevant as I made hard love to the man beneath me, clinging to his horns like handlebars. The harder we went, the louder we became. My vision was blurred in pure ecstasy, and I could feel nothing but the pleasure rushing through me and Sam's horns within my grasp. Soon the entire room almost quaked at the sound of our passion. As we peaked, we released a simultaneous scream and howl of carnal euphoria before wrapping our arms around each other and panting wildly. The sweat between us tingled with the heat in the air, making us shiver in each other's arms. I was in utter bliss, and Sam soothed me and held me close as he very slowly tucked us beneath the bedsheets and held me close to him, allowing me to recover from that experience. Fucking demon style was definitely a new experience. I cuddled into Sam's embrace, nuzzling his chest and almost purring happily at the warmth that emanated from it. Sam kissed my head and chuckled.
You alright?
I could only nod before feeling myself pass out. Sam followed soon after, both of us becoming lost in the dark void of slumber. Phew. Okay. That wasn't too bad. That was a lot more kind to me than the other one. I had to be ready for the trial. I half expected to wake up to Diana to be disguised as Sam as the morning came. However, as I woke, I was happily in the arms of the man I loved. Despite the tired fog over my vision, I could sense that the man who was holding me was the true Sam. The way he held me gave it all away. As he pulled my body close to him, I giggled, knowing Sam was awake. I know you're awake.
No, you don't, you doofus.
I kissed his nose softly, causing Sam to open his eyes. As he gazed into my eyes and smiled, I felt my heart completely swell in joy. I had almost forgotten about the day ahead. All I wanted to do was stay in bed with him a little longer.
Morning.
Morning. Sam lazily leaned forward and kissed me before pulling me to his chest and sitting us both up.
Come on. Time to get up.
Do we have to? As I asked, I could sense a new determination from Sam. Something about him seemed confident despite having just woken up. I tilted my head and placed my hands on his shoulders, curious as to why that was. Hey, what's got you so energized? Sam turned his head and looked in my direction, giving me a surprised look himself.
Huh? What do you mean? I'm always energized.
Squint.
Well, that's good to hear.
Well, at least I know it's not Diana. Sam and I looked over at the door suddenly to see Diana leaning against the archway, holding 2 large plates of food. I was surprised she was able to carry them. Both plates were piled with food that looked absolutely delicious. Sam and I practically salivated at the sight before Sam shook his head and glared at Diana.
You ever learn how to knock?
Well, we have a lot to do, so I figured knocking would only waste precious time. My apologies.
Diana walked over at last and handed us our plates before stepping back and crossing her arms. Sam began to chow down as I took the slower approach to eating what I was given with a laugh.
So, Are you prepared for your test, dear?
That made me stop and look up at Diana. She knew that I was next. She already devoted herself to the dragon before, so it wasn't surprising, but maybe she knew what exactly was in store for me. I couldn't be sure. Do you know what my test is? Diana nodded as Sam looked up to see her answer. I'm now a bit worried. Can you tell me?
Unfortunately, no. I cannot. If I could, I would, dear.
I grimaced, looking to the fireplace and knowing that the dragon was probably watching. I half expected him to answer for Diana, but he didn't speak. My mind began to fill with ideas of what it could be about. What was I going to be tested on? How was it going to go down? Would I have to fight? All the possibilities lingered in my thoughts as Sam finished his food.
Hey.
I looked at Sam, feeling him rub my back gently with his strong hand. I felt some comfort in the gesture, and more from the smile on his face.
You'll be fine. I believe in you.
Thanks, Sam. Smooch. I was happy to know that Sam believed in me and supported me. I gave him a loving peck on his lips, causing him to stare wide-eyed with a blush. I had to giggle at the sight while Diana rolled her eyes and let out a groan. Diana, however, looked to the fireplace.
I will say this, though. It should be easy for you.
Oh? Huh? It should be easy? Diana nodded before turning around and looking over her shoulder to maintain eye contact with me.
Yes. That is, if you believe in your love.
Okay. I stared wide-eyed at Diana before she turned and walked away, leaving me and Sam alone. I grew curious and concerned, but I had to let it go for now. The test was apparently tonight, so I had to wait. I slowly became more comfortable with a sword and began to do more tricks. I became more agile, more aware of my surroundings as I continued to slice through the dummy I decided to call Mal. I don't know why, but the name felt right for it. Oh, Malix. Malix's half-brother Mal the dummy. I pulled myself from the training grounds to the gates and through the castle doors. The interior was dark, yet the warm, ever-burning fires that served as lights illuminated the corridors eased my ability to navigate through the winding halls. The walk was peaceful and quiet on the way to my destination, until I heard familiar laughter tear through the walkway. Alright, heart, time to cry some more. Simon! Or Sinon.
Simon! Get back here, Simon!
Good old Simon. I barely had the chance to turn around and see a small white critter run past me, followed by a pair of fluffy, dark-haired heads in a mad chase. Whoa! Like a whirlwind, I practically spun around in place as Matthew and Norin rushed past me, trying not to collide into me while maintaining pursuit of their furry friend, Simon Tabby.
Sorry!
Sorry! Sorry! Before I managed to shake off the dizzy spell I was under, Norin and Matthew had vanished into a nearby room where I assumed they had chased their furry quarry. Holding my head to steady myself, I jumped at the multitude of clangs and thuds emanating from the room before the sound ceased altogether. I tiptoed towards the door and peeked in, chasing my curiosity. In the war room. Inside, Matthew and Norin surrounded the fluffball Simon on the war room table, gripping onto each side of the table and glaring hard at their target. They looked as if they were generals with how they stared down at the critter that pawed at nations beneath its feet. Norin broke the silence, wearing her best coaxing smile.
Come on, Simon. Let's go back to the room, yeah?
Take that as a no. Matthew, not as patient as his wife, jumped onto the table and clasped both hands around Simon, grinning as Simon made a surprised squeak.
Gotcha!
A triumphant grin stretched across Matthew's face as he started to relish in his success. Norin smirked, but dropped her expression as she quickly turned wide-eyed and frantic.
Wait, he still has the...
Ow! Ow!
The knife. The glint of tiny steel told me more than enough. Matthew momentarily forgot that Simon wielded a knife. It was blunt, meant as a toy imitation, yes, but in the paws of Simon it was more than enough to hurt. Matthew released his grip from Simon, clutching his hand and hissing in pain as Norin swiftly replaced his former hold on the doll. She lunged across the table, wrapping her hands around the toy's torso and trapping Simon's little arms between her fingers, rendering his weapon useless.
Didn't think of that, did you, Simon?
Simon deflated with a squeal of defeat before becoming still in Norrin's hands, turning into a doll once more. With a sigh, Norrin and Matthew finally ease and collapse on the table, shutting their eyes from exhaustion.
Finally, we can relax.
Yeah, jeez, that took forever.
Why are you chasing him? Norrin rolled onto her back on the table and stared at the ceiling, bringing Simon to her chest and letting out another tired sigh. Matthew chuckled lightly before lying beside her, doing the same. It was rare to see either of these two without their usual buzz of excitement. Norrin lazily laid her arm across Matthew's face in an attempt to run her hand through his hair, to which Matthew returned the gesture with an exaggerated plop of his hand on her face to caress her cheek. Laughter spilled out from them, their contagious chuckles making it hard for me to stifle the bubbly giggles rising in my throat. I held back my laugh, biting my lip with a wide smile. Even when they looked exhausted, I couldn't help but feel light and giddy from watching them. Norrin always seemed to be bursting with energy whenever she fluttered around the other wives and I, eager to embark on adventures, whether it be across the world or to a nearby diner at 3 a.m. Yet, I knew there were moments when her waves of energy ebbed, just like now. Despite those times, she was a master at quick quips and one-liners that it seemed only Matthew could keep up with her with his own wit and creative power. They were perfect friends, so aligned and in sync that it was easy to see them as husband and wife. Norrin's eyes lit up as a flash of inspiration dawned on her. She smirked and turned to look at Matthew with a quirked brow.
So, when is Simon going to have a suitor?
Oh?
Huh?
She asking, like, are you gonna make him a suitor? Matthew looked over at her in mixed shock and fear. While Norrin held back a laugh in her cheeks at his expression, Matthew shook his head violently.
No way. There's no way I'm gonna give him another reason to run around and go crazy, and give us another doll like that to deal with.
Oh, you two goofballs.
What? Oh, come on! Imagine the fun of designing his new friend. All the little details, from the color of its eyes to the fluff of its fur. Plus, think of all the adventures they'd have together. So much fun that it might even distract Simon from messing with us.
Well, I mean, I guess you're right, but...
Matthew brought a hand to his chin, so he looked deep in thought over the suggestion. She looked on expectantly, waiting for his final answer before her eyes caught his hand shifting over his mouth to hide his growing smirk. Norrin gave a toothy grin to Matthew before gently pinching and pulling his cheek.
Come on, one more go at a living toy. And look, you're smiling too. You totally wanna.
Matthew stuck out his tongue and threatened to lick Norrin's hand to gross her out and release her grip on his cheek. She flinched but remained resolute, nearly laughing at his attempt and teasing his face harder. I bit my lip to stop myself from laughing, but watching the two struggle for the upper hand made it hard to not imagine if they were like this all the time. It even became apparent to me that Norrin actually dominated the relationship with Matthew following her, and, not surprisingly, Matthew seemed to enjoy that, peppering in his own competitive bursts and challenges to her lead.
You think a little spit will scare me?
Alright, I'll do it, okay?
Satisfied, Norrin finally released her hold on his cheek. She smiled at her husband before flopping down with her back flat against the table, breathing out a contented sigh.
I love you. You know that, right?
Matthew took a moment to rub his cheek before looking down at her with a grin of his own, leaning down and kissing her nose and making her sputter and widen her eyes.
Of course I do. You know I love you, right, Norrin?
A mere second passed between them before Norrin wrapped her arms around Matthew's neck and pulled him down, locking her lips to his and making him flail from losing his balance. Luckily, he planted his hands on the table beside her head so he didn't crush her. Matthew relaxed in the kiss and closed his eyes, melting into it before Norrin's arms relaxed and let him pull away slightly to look into her eyes. They stared at each other with goofy smiles as each of them began to blush a cute pink color.
I know you do, Matthew. I couldn't live without your warm hugs or your dorky face. You're the best.
I'm pretty sure you're the best. I don't know how you did it. Waiting for me and looking for me for so long.
You guys are so cute. You're like best friends.
The first 6 times were hard, yeah. But I'd definitely spend another 9 searching for you.
Are you part cat? Is that your story, Norrin? I know you had those cat thigh highs, but... My heart ached as well, nostalgic for the sorely missed normal that we had in the human world, but smiled at the sight of them curled up in one another's jackets. I only heard bits and pieces from them, but from what I've pieced together, I could tell that their first meeting wasn't as Matthew and Norin. They've waited so long to meet one another. Now that they're together, I hardly saw them more than an arm's length apart. Both of them were adorable together, and I could tell that life was going to be full of adventures for them, regardless of who truly was in the lead and where their energy took them. They relished in the sweetness before Norin's eyes became half-lidded and her smile turned wicked.
So, there's no one around, and I don't feel like heading back just yet.
Right here? But Simon's here. He could be watching.
Darn it, Simon.
Like he hasn't intentionally walked in on us before and threw glitter all over your back.
Oh boy, I feel like Matthew's route's gonna be an interesting ride.
Okay. But can we, turn him around or put him in a drawer?
Are you getting shy on me?
Norin smiled, ready to one-up her love, but Matthew's eyes darkened as a competitive fire burned inside him. His mouth twitched into a sly smirk.
Oh, don't think I'm gonna be the shy one tonight. I never back down from a challenge.
I gasped, feeling my ears burn from secondhand embarrassment and fighting my urge to walk in and prevent them from ruining the war room any more than they had with their shenanigans. Don't be such a prude, Angel. Gosh. Think of all the secondhand embarrassment you've given me. Norin perked up at my surprise sound, glancing over to the door where I stood and shot me a mischievous smile with a finger to her lips. I finally turned and left, needing to continue my own journey to my room and clear any intention of returning to that room again.